If you're anything like me, after binging shows like Lioness and The Day of the Jackal, you've been craving a thriller that doesn't waste time. And trust me, Terminal List DARKWOLF delivers. No slow burn, no filler. By the end of episode 1, you're already hooked. This new prequel to the Terminal List dives into the backstory of Taylor Kitsch's character, Ben Edwards, and his brother-in-arms, Rafe Hastings, as they get pulled into the CIA's darkest corners. And don't worry, you don't need to have seen the Terminal List to follow along. This is its own beast. Join me for a full season recap where we break down all the major plot points and shocking revelations from the show. Let's go. The Terminal List DARKWOLF opens in 2022 during the funeral of the Alpha Platoon. The show wastes no time reminding us what operators are really fighting for. Every battle is about bringing their brothers home. But when you fail your people, the guilt is the weight that never leaves. Then we flash back 7 years earlier, to 2015. Chief Special Warfare Operator Ben Edwards and Lieutenant Rafe Hastings are in Mosul, training and collaborating with Iraqi Special Forces, ISF, as part of Operation Inherent Resolve. Edwards has built a strong bond with Duran, their ISF interpreter. He even knows his wife and kids. So it's tough when a dicey hostage transfer operation goes wrong, a firefight explodes on a bridge, and not only does Duran lose a leg, but an ISIS shot caller by the name of Hamid al-Jabouri gets away clean. The original deal was to exchange him for some ISF families, but ISIS opened fire as soon as they get their guy back. When James Reece rotates in to join Edwards and Hastings at the forward operating base, there is talk of their frustrations. 10 years bleeding into Iraqi soil, and all it seems to grow is another enemy. Still, the bond between these men is real. Gifts are exchanged, books are passed around, and they remind each other that they're part of a warrior lineage that lives and dies by the same creed. With al-Jabouri still in play, SEAL Command shifts focus toward Masoud Dinawi, an arms dealer funneling weapons to ISIS. Edwards sees an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, leaning on intel from his ISF friend Mohammed Farouk. Problem is, Dinawi is way ahead of the SEALs. He shows up at Duran's door with Dr. Khalaf, the man who was supposed to deliver his prosthetics. The next thing we see is Duran calling Edwards, who is on a reconnaissance mission, to see where exactly Dinawi is operating from. Duran tells him to look after his kids, and Edwards immediately senses something is wrong, but it's too late. Duran, with a bomb hidden in his new prosthetic leg, blows up part of the base, though he tries his best to minimize casualties. Edwards rushes to Duran's house and finds his friend's wife dead, and their 2 children missing. The message written in blood is a warning. He who abandons the caliphate abandons God. What are they really fighting for if they can't protect their brothers, their allies? When Edwards pitches a mission into Mosul to strike at Dinawi and al-Jabouri, Commander Cox shuts him down. And that's when the chief puts 1 and 1 together. SEAL Command and Fuller, a CIA attaché, are running a protection racket. Hamid al-Jabouri is untouchable. He's an asset for the agency. Hastings attempts to hold the chief back, but Edwards loses it on Cox, raging that their so-called asset is responsible for the slaughter of partners, women, and children. Of course, they were never going to just sit on their hands. The operators launch an unsanctioned strike in Mosul, infiltrating an ISIS-controlled compound in search of al-Jabouri. The official plan is to detain him as a high-value target and expose him as a CIA mole to his own ISIS allies, so they'll take him out for them. But the mission goes sideways the moment Edwards discovers Duran's kidnapped children inside the house. Al-Jabouri spits in perfect English that he's CIA and keeps running his mouth. Before any of his brothers in arms can stop him, Edwards puts his pistol under the man's chin and fires. It's a clear execution, but as the camera zooms in on Edwards holding Duran's daughter, we see that he feels completely justified. After Edwards executes Hamid al-Jabouri, Reece, Boozer, Farouk, and Hastings do their best to cover for Edwards. They line up their story, framing it as self-defense. It doesn't save Edwards from punishment, but it keeps him out of prison for murder. Commander Cox is forced to dishonorably discharge both Edwards and Hastings to send a message to anyone else who might put personal scores over orders. As they are being flown away from their lives as Navy SEALs, we get some context on Edwards. Reece honestly thought his guy was doing all right. He was chasing his next E-8 certification, had remarried back in the States, and was seemingly building a stable future. Reece even described it as a new wife, new life. But Rafe Hastings saw it differently. To him, Edwards wasn't exactly moving forward. He was just trying to copy Reece's life, instead of working on his own demons, which made leaving the teams almost inevitable. Hastings, too, is leaving. He feels a bond with Edwards and wants to protect Reece, as the CIA requested that 2 heads roll for Hamid's death. He is also motivated by his family history. His father was a Special Forces soldier in Rhodesia, so Hastings already carries the weight of legacies. Walking away now feels like another chapter closing. While waiting for their connecting flight in Frankfurt, they witness a series of delays and cancellations, prompting Edwards to find ways to pass the time. Since Hastings isn't interested in any of his ideas, Edwards heads to the airport bar, where he is approached by a mysterious man named Jed Haverford, a CIA spy master. Haverford reveals that he knows everything about the unsanctioned mission and Edwards' execution of Al-Jaburi. A witness had reported the incident, but Haverford buried the evidence. Now he offers them a deal. Join a Black Ops mission to capture the arms dealer Danawi. If they succeed, they can avenge their friends and be reinstated with an honorable discharge. If they refuse, they go back to civilian life and spiral into oblivion like so many other ex-operators. Edwards doesn't hesitate. He accepts the offer, even against the wishes of his new wife, Amy, who has barely seen him since the wedding. Hastings, on the other hand, isn't convinced. He questions the whole idea of targeting an Iranian national in unfamiliar territory. But after Edwards promises to stay under control, Hastings agrees, and they fly to Krems, Austria. The mission is to intercept Danawi at a shady techno club, where he is conducting an arms deal. Since they can't go in with guns, they are to meet a contact at the club who would bring it in for them. They expect to meet some heavyweight contact, only for the plug to turn out to be Eliza, a young waitress who also happens to be Mossad. The look on their faces? Priceless. With everyone armed, it's go time. Eliza tries to slip Danawi a spiked drink, but he's not an amateur. He makes her drink it instead. To maintain her cover, she complies, holding herself together just long enough to leave his sight before collapsing into Edwards' arms. Edwards takes her to the washroom and flushes out the toxins with saline, but in doing so, his cover is blown. As Danawi's men storm into the club, Tal, one of Haverford's operatives stationed outside, slips into Danawi's car and immobilizes it, giving the team an advantage. They take out most of Danawi's crew, but he manages to escape into an alley. Edwards and Hastings chase him down, cornering their target. And Hastings, the same person who told Edwards not to go rogue, proceeds to brutally bludgeon Danawi to death with his gun. With Danawi dead, the mission is a success, and the team has passed their audition to work with the CIA. After successfully killing Iranian arms dealer Masoud Danawi, the gig starts feeling less temp and more proper. Contract work with a crew that actually grows. Their new crew is a mix of new and familiar faces, including Mohammed Farouk, Edwards, and Hastings' old buddy from Iraqi Special Forces. Mo also has a history with Jed Haverford, going back to the 1990s. Then there's Ish Reinhardt, Michael Ealy, always a good casting choice, who both Edwards and Hastings immediately clock as someone who knows his stuff. And climbing out of the van last? Landry, the mouthy ex-ESEAL who Edwards called a fucking lapdog back in Mosul when he went off on Commander Cox. That meltdown and Edwards going rogue cost him his job. But it's water under the bridge now. They're all private, Haverford, vetted, and on the same side. This new, dangerous life immediately takes a toll on Edwards' personal life. His new wife, Amy, calls him, and after hearing he was kicked out of the SEALs but still didn't come home, she realizes he's never coming back. She ends their marriage over the phone. Haverford, who overheard the conversation, puts it in perspective. A spouse can't compete with a world that offers the freedom to action that kings and presidents only dream of. Maybe it's for the best, because I see some sparks flying between Edwards and Eliza, and I kinda ship them. She's fixing vintage BMW motorcycles when he starts hovering, and she's even given this long-haired American a pet name, Pirate. From Danawi's phone, they learn he was meant to buy something from Professor Molnar. But then another caller keeps blowing up his line. Turns out, it's his daughter, which the team discovers after arranging a meet. Mo is ordered to kill her. She could expose Danawi's death and blow up their operation. But Mo, whose sisters were raped and murdered, can't bring himself to kill an innocent woman. He decides she truly isn't connected to her father's evil and stages her death. It's a quiet act of mercy. But in the spy world, someone is always watching. Tal, tracking everything on surveillance, knows Farouk only made it look like an execution. She'll keep his secret. The underlying message? They're all killers, so maybe mercy is only possible in the margins. Then it's time for the main meet. The team is in position for a ruse where Mo will impersonate Danawi. Because of the rat lines, the Hungarian geologist Professor Molnar doesn't know what the man he's meeting looks like. The team already senses this is about nuclear capabilities, and after a bit of testing, the professor reveals he has a custom-crafted, radiation-resistant bearing that will afford Tehran adequate uranium to build a bomb in less than a year. The team's jaws drop. It's $5 million upfront and the balance on delivery, which Eliza orders Mo to jump on. Mo's making the cash transfer when a set of unknown goons show up. Well, Michael Ealy will keep looking for you to be cool in other shows, because in DARKWOLF, Ish is the first casualty. After Mo makes his escape, the team needs a picture of at least one of the attackers to identify their employer. These guys are pros at dodging cameras, but Ish spots one of the goons cut off from the rest, thinking it'll be easy. But when Edwards finds him in a subway station, he is KIA. Haverford is near tears as he orders Edwards to find the guy. Edwards pursues the goon onto a train. With Tal able to cut the train's CCTV cameras, Edwards draws his weapon and kills Ish's attacker right there in front of a bunch of Budapest commuters. His aura in this scene is top-notch. Someone needs to make an edit ASAP. Side note, Darren's kids were rescued and are now safe in the US. After mourning Ish's death, the team learns that the man Edwards killed was part of the Khalid network, a group trying to spread nuclear weapons. While this gives their work a clear purpose, it puts Hastings at odds with Edwards. Hastings worries that their mission is becoming less defined and more dangerous, especially with Edwards acting so recklessly and getting close to Eliza. Edwards counters that with Haverford, they can bypass the bureaucracy and take action, urging Hastings to trust him. Hastings, however, has his doubts. He calls a contact who assures him that Haverford can be trusted because he has dedicated his life to ensuring that the Iranians never make a nuclear weapon, ever since the Iranian-backed bombing of American forces in Beirut. On top of that, he apparently has an asset working in the Iranian government, called the Shepherd, who I assume is Vahid Rahimi. Vahid is the brother of Cyrus Rahimi, an Iranian diplomat. It's his nephew's birthday, and after the gift exchange, the brothers have a serious talk. Their conversation suggests they employed Danawi and originally intended to get Molnar's bearings, but as the exchange gets nearer, Vahid is conflicted. He doesn't want to hand the nuclear weapons over to the Iranian government, as he believes it could be the wrong hands, which is exactly what Cyrus wants. Even though the team paid Professor Molnar $5 million up front, Vahid and his brother decide to cut Danawi out of the deal, and instead use Khalid's network to make the trade with Molnar. With no message about delivery from Molnar, there's nothing for them to do, until Haverford gets word from his asset that the Khalid network is moving the bearings to Iran's nuclear facilities. The team's next mission is to hit the convoy in Munich, switch out Professor Molnar's custom bearings, which would allow Iran to build a nuclear bomb in less than a year, with fakes from Mossad, and watch the centrifuge at Tehran's nuclear facility fail spectacularly. Hastings isn't really okay with this impromptu plan, but he goes with it, and he notices some red flags. When he and Tal received the fake bearings from a Mossad agent, Hastings questions how they could have been created so fast, given they only knew about Molnar a few days ago. It doesn't help that while Edwards and Eliza are scouting the tunnel they intend to ambush the Khalid network, Eliza goes missing for a moment. She blames it on the tunnel, then fakes a kiss with Edwards to distract a guard. Yeah, something is definitely up. Edwards can't see a thing because he is completely distracted by a beautiful woman. Women make the best spies, mind you. Before the mission, a conflict arises when Landry attempts to sexually assault Tal. She fights him off, and Eliza steps in, punching Landry and pinning him against a wall, threatening to castrate him if he tries it again. Dude was already walking on ice before, and now he does this. I thought Edwards and Hastings were about to give him the beating of his life, as they kept staring at him. While Edwards wants him off the crew, Eliza says they still need him for the operation. The mission starts perfectly. The team takes out the lead vehicles in the tunnel, and Edwards and Eliza successfully grab the case of bearings. The coordination and everything was fire. We all think that's it, until an RPG hits. The ambush is a total surprise, hitting the team hard. Edwards and Eliza retreat into the tunnel, and just as Edwards wonders how the enemy got to them so fast, Eliza shoots him in the back. "Sorry, Ben," she says, before kicking him into unconsciousness and taking the bearings. Haverford, who is eliminating Molnar, also realizes his own team members hacked his phone. Looks like Mossad is playing their own game. Despite being shot at least 3 times by Eliza, Edwards is alive thanks to his plate carrier. That's some serious Superman stuff right there. He catches up to Eliza at a hotel and ambushes her, demanding to know why she betrayed him. Eliza admits that Mossad ordered her to get the bearings, but insists she had nothing to do with the ambush. Their conversation is cut short by a hit team, forcing Edwards to trust Eliza again just to survive. They escape, and that's when Eliza reveals that she's not the one Edwards should be worried about, Haverford is. As is common in spy work, handlers change constantly, but Haverford has been this Shepherd's handler for years. Something is off. Either Haverford and the Shepherd are working together, or Haverford is being used for the Shepherd's agenda, not the other way around. To make matters worse, the bearings they have are fake. Someone switched the original briefcase with a counterfeit, either before the Khalid network convoy entered the tunnel or during the shootout. Why and how? Hastings provides a clue. He captured one of the Khalid network operatives carrying the briefcase, and, after some brutal interrogation, which is sickening by the way, the man breaks. With his dying breath, the man reveals he's an operative for German intelligence, making him an ally. It breaks Hastings' heart that he's just killed a brother. It seems the Germans were running their own op, which explains the fake bearings. Who now has the real ones? That's the question. Tal tracks Haverford's comms with the Shepherd to a location in Munich. She infiltrates the apartment, fights a burly guy monitoring the traffic, and manages to download some data before escaping. Edwards decides to trust Eliza after she points out that if she wanted to kill him, she would have shot him in the head, not his vest. Too easy for me though. As they drive to the team's rendezvous point, listening to music, they look like a couple on a first road trip. But the moment of calm doesn't last. They are attacked with a bomb, and Eliza is killed. Edwards survives, kills the assailants, and flees the scene, clutching Eliza's bracelet, a gift from her daughter meant to keep her safe, and the briefcase of fake bearings, hoping to reach the rally point without facing any more obstacles. After surviving the bombing in Zurich, Edwards meets with his team at a safe house. Hastings arrives after dumping the German operative's body to reveal that it wasn't Khalid's network moving those supposed real bearings they hit. It was a German op to sell fake ones to Iran, and Edwards' team had been used to blow that up. Now they need to figure out who used them to take out the Germans, and where the original bearings are. Haverford pins it all on Vahid, claiming he's the shepherd and the mastermind behind everything, from the bearings game to the hit on Eliza and Edwards. That's way too easy. With Vahid captured, the play is to get him to call his brother Cyrus, who is at the Global Atomic Energy Alliance with Yusuf, the Iranian prime minister. Yusuf is worried since Vahid has gone AWOL and is already threatening consequences when Vahid's call confirms the deal is still on. After Vahid completes his task, Haverford kills him. This cements Vahid's identity as the shepherd in the eyes of the task force. But Tal, who is still tracking the real shepherd with the data she got from the man that almost killed her, knows better. Over the radio, Tal's Mossad contacts are telling her to stand down. But she's not going to let Eliza's death mean nothing. She finds a discrepancy in the timeline of Vahid's death, proving he was not the real shepherd. Logs from the laptop prove the shepherd was still in contact with Haverford an hour after his supposed death. Using CCTV footage, she identifies the real shepherd Cyrus. Before the final exchange, Edwards has one last verbal showdown with Hastings, who chooses to walk away, convinced their mission has strayed from its purpose. Edwards, along with Mo and Landry, who is apparently back in Edwards' good graces after saving Mo, proceeds with the plan to meet Yusuf and go through with the initial plan of selling fake bearings to ruin Iran's centrifuges. But they're floored when the bearings they hand over test as real, not fake. The truth is revealed in a conversation between Haverford and Cyrus. The plan was never to stop Iran's program, but to let it happen. By giving Yusuf the authentic bearings, Cyrus secures his promotion to minister. Once in power, he can pull the plug himself, ushering in his version of peace. To cover this plan, Cyrus leaked the convoy's location, and Haverford cleaned up the mess, framing Vahid as shepherd, then killing him to keep Cyrus safe. Killing his brother is crazy work. As for the bearings themselves, I suppose Haverford had the real bearings the whole time and swapped them before the op. But if that's true, why not just hand them to Cyrus? Why drag Edwards' team into it? Questions only the finale can answer. Realizing they have been duped and have betrayed their country, Edwards, Landry, and Mo get a picture from Tal proving that Haverford is working with Cyrus. They decide to take matters into their own hands, intercepting Yusuf's private plane and killing him and his crew. The plane took forever to take off. It's ridiculous. As a dying Yusuf calls Cyrus, he and Haverford listen to the carnage. As they leave, we realize Hastings didn't actually leave. He was watching their six without them knowing. It is only after he realizes they are safe that he leaves. Brotherhood for life. The trio takes the bearings and heads to their safe boat, but instead of finding a bomb, they find a letter from Haverford to the CIA director. The letter paints Edwards, Landry, Mo, and Hastings as rogue agents, blaming them for the deaths of their allies in the failed mission. It is basically their death warrant. Tal arrives and tells them the only way to clear their names is to catch Haverford and Cyrus red-handed. What if the picture with Cyrus, you'd say? Well, to them it means something, but to the authorities, it's just Haverford meeting with Iran's chief negotiator. That doesn't scream terrorist. Also, the communication logs she has are from multiple IP addresses, so they don't really tie Haverford to it. So they basically have zilch. But since they still have the real bearings, they have skin in the game and a way to lure them out of hiding. So it's been like 2 months since Haverford framed the team, and you see him at Langley, all smug, at this internal investigation. There's zero hard evidence to prove he's a traitor, and these higher-ups just go with the expert over a guy like Hastings. Haverford gets to retire, and Hastings is told to tell Edwards to just surrender. It's so messed up. But Edwards has other plans. He's living completely alone in a secluded cabin in the Black Forest, Germany. The whole place is booby-trapped to the teeth with explosives. He writes a letter to Reece, basically laying out his whole character arc. He's so done with the corrupt system where the grunts get punished for losing a rifle while the big shots lose a whole war and get promoted. He thinks it's time to hold the brass accountable. He calls Reece to thank him, knowing he might not get another chance. Then he instructs Tal to make his location public, knowing that the moment the agencies tracking him catch wind of it, they'll mobilize and alert Haverford, who will pass that intel straight to Cyrus. Up until now, the Cyrus-Haverford chats couldn't be tied to him because he was hiding behind a VPN. The plan is to unmask it when Haverford contacts Cyrus, because the second he makes that live connection, the VPN shield cracks. That session can leak his real device, or IP, and once investigators catch it, they can line it up with old logs so every past text suddenly points back to him. Now all Edwards has to do is survive 15 minutes in a hail of bullets until Tal pins them down. He gets off to a great start in the shootout, but once the fight moves into the woods, he gets overwhelmed. Luckily, Reece and his crew show up just in time to save him. The action sequence is insane, very well executed. He gets injured, and Reece patches him up. Edwards tells him to take the bearings to Langley to finally clear their names. We even get this quick scene where Edwards gives Eliza's valuables to her daughter, which is a nice touch. Edwards taking the bearings and killing the Iranian prime minister completely wrecked Haverford's plan, though Cyrus still manages to land a cushy offer to be the next foreign minister. He's done with Haverford, not even worried about Edwards being on the run or the missing bearings. Big mistake. Edwards and the team go on a vengeance tour. Landry kills Artem in Istanbul, the guy who helped get the whole bearings operation going. And Mo gets the ultimate revenge. He bombs Cyrus's car in front of his family, making him burn the way Eliza did. Aura for aura. The final showdown is between Edwards and Haverford in Virginia. Edwards doesn't just kill him. He asks for an explanation. Haverford's reason is crazy. He wasn't relying on Cyrus to stop Iran's nuclear program. USA has been all bark and no bite when it comes to Iran, and his plan was to give Iran a nuke so Israel would be forced to start a war, which would draw in other countries and turn Iran into dust, avenging his fallen comrades. Also, the bomb that killed Eliza was intended for Edwards, as he was beginning to cause troubles for him. In an uncharacteristic move, Edwards doesn't kill him. Instead, he has him arrested and disgraced with evidence Tal found, which finally clears his and the team's names. The season ends with Edwards on a boat, a free man. And what does he do? He decides to join the CIA. The polygraph test during his interview confirms he's being truthful when he says he's built for this. It seems fair enough, but we all know how that works out in the long run.